Lack of slow water refugia and off-channel habitat is a critical limiting factor affecting Oregon Coast coho populations. This project in Coquille-Coos County will address this limiting factor by upgrading deleterious tidegate infrastructure and restoring fish passage to 9,800 acres of subwatershed, including 11.4 miles of coho habitat and 490 acres of tidal wetland habitat. Since the mid-1800s, land use practices have substantially decreased the amount, quality, and access of floodplain complexes, which are vital wintertime rearing habitat for anadromous fish populations. Conversion of these forested bottomlands, wetlands, and floodplains into pasture has highly degraded vital winter rearing habitat for anadromous fish and has eliminated riparian shade, allowing tributaries in the main stem Coquille River to regularly reach lethal temperatures for salmonids in the summer. The Coaledo Drainage District tide gates control access to the 9,800-acre Beaver Slough Basin. 3 top-hinged wooden tide gates and 3 25-inch metal culverts remain closed for the majority of the time, and when open, they slowly let out water at an angle less than 20%. The resultant condition is severe restriction of juvenile fish movements from the main stem Coquille River into historically high-quality winter rearing locations. These 3 tide gates are currently restricting anadromous native fish access to 13.6 miles of salmonid spawning habitat and 490 acres of seasonally flooded lowlands, of which 289 are natural tidal wetland owned and protected as a part of ODF&W's Coquille Valley Wildlife Area. In addition to limiting fish access, these tide gates and metal culverts are at the end of their lifespan and are predicted to fail within the next 5 years. A failure of this kind would leave 30 landowners without protection from full tidal impact. The tide gates are located 0.7 miles above the confluence of the Coquille River. We have identified grade control humps in the bathymetry that are currently acting as hydrologic control points downstream from the tide gates. These grade control points are being caused by in-stream obstructions, an access bridge, and unnatural sediment accumulation because of impeded tidal flushing from the ineffective tide gate. These humps impede water conveyance, reduce the hydrologic connection to the Coquille River, and mute the tidal influence. Channel enhancements are proposed to eliminate grade control points and create a new flow line in the lowest section of Beaver Creek to reach the greatest ecological benefit. Beaver Creek is strategically important for water quality within the watershed, but perhaps even more important is the role it plays as a contributing stream to the main stem Coquille River. Thermal refugia has become critically important for surviving salmonids, considering the large-scale removal of riparian forests in the floodplain valley. Conditions in Beaver Slough have allowed for invasive vegetation to flourish in high-nutrient, stagnant, warm water conditions. Furthermore, smallmouth bass were illegally introduced to the Coquille River Basin in 2008 and have since increased exponentially, largely due to the unnaturally warm river temperatures. The predatory force of smallmouth have largely been implicated as one of the primary forces inducing the collapse of fall Chinook salmon since 2018. With these issues recognized, the Coquille Watershed Association has identified key solutions that we believe can help achieve our objectives in restoring our local watershed. One of our first objectives is upgrading the existing culverts and tide gates with infrastructure that maximizes fish benefit while not negatively impacting landowners upstream. This will include replacing failing tide gates with 3 concrete box culverts, each fitted with side-hinged aluminum tide gates, muted tide regulators, and an adjustable gate for additional water control. An additional objective is to implement a water management plan that balances winter fish use and summer grazing. The water management plan is agreed upon by Coaledo Drainage District basin managers, including ODF&W and regulatory agencies. The water management plan dictates what level the MTR is set at and thus determines how long the tide gate door is open. The water management plan was based on existing conditions, known fish use, and on the objectives of improved ecological function and respect for working lands. Our third objective is to perform channel enhancements on Lower Beaver Slough to maximize the tidal prism and hydraulic connection to the Coquille River. This includes removing grade control bumps and excavation of a new flow line. Consequently, an existing access bridge must be replaced in order to accommodate the restored hydraulic connectivity. The flow line and capacity of the channel between the tide gate and Coquille River limit tide gate function and the potential for tidal flux upstream of the tide gate. To address these concerns, lowering the channel flow line and increasing the channel's cross-sectional area are proposed. Finally, our fourth objective is to restore 3 miles of riparian habitat to create a thermal corridor for cold water from the Coquille Valley Wildlife Area to reach the Coquille River. This includes planting 13 acres of riparian forest, building 16,000 feet of livestock exclusion fencing, installing 2 logs with root wads for bank stabilization, and installing 7 off-channel watering areas. Beaver Slough and the wetlands upstream of the Coaledo tide gates provide highly desirable rearing habitat for juvenile overwintering coho. The Coaledo tide gates are restricting juvenile salmonid movements. However, our monitoring data shows juvenile coho staging for extended periods of time downstream of the gate in order to gain access to these habitats upstream. While coho may be getting through, our monitoring data suggests that these tide gates are a complete barrier to Chinook. This project will not only restore fish passage for Chinook, but also provide thermal refugia within Beaver Slough and cold water inputs to the Coquille River, both desperately needed to help depleted Chinook numbers. The project seeks to enhance ecological function of the Beaver Slough Basin by restoring tidal fluctuation, hydraulic connection with the Coquille River, and a riparian corridor from the Coquille Valley Wildlife Area to the Coquille River. The result will be improved fish passage, water quality, stream temperatures, and access to 300 acres of already restored, protected, high-quality wetlands. We hope this video has been a helpful visual demonstration. Thank you for listening.